Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Parazian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chair Najarian.
Here. May we have your report?
Certainly. The posting of the agenda for the May 8th, 2012 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, May 3rd, 2012 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. May we have the next item?
It's approval of minutes.
So moved. Second.
There are no objections or corrections. The minutes will be approved as submitted.
Next is oral communications. We do have two cards. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for investigation and report.
Thank you. I have two speaker requests. First is Richard Espiritu, followed by Herbert Milano.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, and staff. I am Richard Espiritu. I'm going to be addressing the fair housing impediment analysis, but I'm going to go back to 2005 because a lot of things have transpired from 2005. The most recent report, I would believe the city can implement, but in 2005, the city should have implemented all of these changes. I'm also going to address a couple of other issues. In the 2011 report, it definitely stated that the city should change their definition of handicaps. The federal law, according to the impediment analysis of 2005, there's the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disability Act, and also Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. These are three federal laws that justify and prevent against discrimination. In the state of California, we have two laws. One is the Unruh Act, and I'm sure Mr. Najarian and I have had long discussions about that in the past, and also the Fair Employment and Housing Act. These are two state laws that have been passed. People with disability, according to the 2005 impediment analysis report, home modifications to improve accessibility or other forms of assistance must be met. That's on page 2 of 26 of that report, Mr. Garcia. They also talk about Senate Bill 520 that went into effect in the year 2002. This provides all jurisdictions to analyze and remove potential constraints to housing for people with disability. According to the 2005 analysis, this is supposed to have been implemented by the city of Glendale by the end of 2005. This happens to be 2012, so I don't know where we stand on that. One of the most interesting things is the city of Glendale, according to the analysis in 2005, because of the large number of seniors and disabilities, should appoint a individual who's a liaison to contact and deal with seniors and disabled groups addressing their needs within the community. I contacted the city of Glendale. They politely and told me they don't have any such liaison person. If there is no liaison person, and this was supposed to have been done back in 2005, why has it taken the city of Glendale 7 years even to look at this issue? I'm going to give every members of the Housing Authority and Mr. Ochoa a copy of these reports. Took it right out of the Fair Housing Analysis impediment, so Not my words, it's their words. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia, if we could have some, I'm not familiar with the issues that,
Would you like us to review the issues that were raised?
yes, maybe next meeting, unless you're ready to respond to them at this point.
We could probably provide a written response and then go.
Yes, let's get some response.
Okay.
As soon as possible for Herbert Milano.
Good afternoon, Chair Najarian, members of the Housing Authority, and city staff. My name is Herbert Milano. Mr. Najarian, you remember back in 2005 when you were running for office, we had a meeting at the Panda Inn restaurant, and soon after that we took a tour of South Glendale, and I think we spent a better part of an hour discussing some of the challenges and issues that residents in South Glendale face. And at that time we discussed the need for the swimming pool, and thanks to your efforts, we now have a swimming pool at Pacific Park. But I also remember mentioning as well the report from 2001 on the quality of life indicators and the state of youth in Glendale. I'm here to urge the Housing Authority to proceed and move forward with a new status of youth in Glendale report. Back when my son was going to Glendale High School and he was in football, I was participating actively with the parents of the football players, and I noticed then that about 80% of the parents who showed up were single parents, women. And they were looking towards the program that Glendale High School had at the time to be able to provide a surrogate father for many of these kids. At the time, I remember asking the Glendale Unified School District for statistics with regard to the graduation rate and supporting documents, because they indicated that about 96% of their high school kids graduated. But the data did not support that. In fact, when I finally got the information concerning the retention rate, for Hispanic kids, the graduation rate was less than 70%. You know, when we have a society where a significant number of kids, especially of one ethnicity, is not making it because of the significant family situations that they have, I think that it behooves a government to look into what actions it can take and what funding it can do to be able to create a sustainable community. For many individuals who feel that basically the situation of a particular student is their family's problem, it's not society's problem, it does become our problem when that child does not graduate or goes into crime or winds up in the hands of the police and the courts. So I think that there is a significant reason for a government to look into those areas of its communities where there is a significant need for some type of preventative action or investment to make sure that these kids live a sustainable life. Now, this is not something new. I've been coming here for many years talking about that and trying to create the type of annual report that tells us how we're doing. Because at the end of the day, when you sit at the city council defining how you're going to define the budget, you have to make some tough choices. But the choices that I have seen in the past few years has been either to provide luxury pensions, significantly incredible pensions to many individuals in the fire and police department and management, and then almost very little funding that goes into sustainability programs for our youth. How could that be? To me, it's an incredibly immoral concept to be in a position to have a growth of the city budget going from under $400 million back in 2000 or 1999 to now about $830 million. You have that significant growth, and yet, according to the report from 10 years ago, the city spent less than 1% of its total budget on youth. And that includes everything. That's libraries, that's police, gangs, every imaginable project were added up, and we spent 1% of our total budget. At the time, the population for youth in Glendale under 18 was something like 14%. So I think that there's a significant disparity when you're trying to make choices with regard to a budget, when we see a significant need within the communities, and when we don't find either the studies or the evaluation or the policy or the funding necessary to be able to create a truly sustainable community. And I think it behooves us to at least figure out where we are. I know that the excuses will always be we don't have the money, we cut down on the staffing, we no longer have a particular division that can take care of it, but I believe that it is morally justifiable to move forward, and it is my hope that the Housing Authority suggests that we create a brand new report on the state of youth in Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ochoa, if staff could inform members of the authority what information is available. I don't want to commit staff to preparing a new report, but to the extent that there is information available, if that information could be distributed to the authority members and to the public as well, let's see where we are and see if there's any action that we can take. As the authority starts to have fewer and fewer issues before it due to the loss of redevelopment funding, et cetera, I think we have the luxury of investigating and looking into some of these other quality of life issues that are within the realm and purview of our jurisdiction.
Yes.
I mentioned one last week that I have met with staff on regarding housing issues and availability and those related things. So just let us know what we have on that, and then if the authority would like to take the step to go further, that's something we can discuss at a later
Yes, sir.
time.
We can report that back.
I would also, and I'm familiar with the report that was issued in 2001. I just don't have one with me. If there's one available, I'd like to kind of take a look at it and re-familiarize myself with the report. So,
And if that's the latest that we have, let's all get a copy of that.
Right.
I would also request from the city attorney, if anytime someone asks a question of you, if you could send something to the entire housing authority, it would be helpful.
Okay, I have no other cards. We have apparently jumped over the business agenda, which there's nothing on the business agenda. Item 6, I've jumped into the authority member staff comments. So to the extent that we've gotten into that, are there any comments by any other members of the authority? Thank you. Seeing none.
I move we adjourn.
For a second, the authority is adjourned.
Okay, I will call to order the joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale